you know. All right, Susan Michelle, welcome, welcome for Surrender to Joy. This mic is all yours.
Hi, this is Susan Michel. I am here in Western Massachusetts. It is great to be here as always. I am the author of Surrender to Joy, From Suicide to Serenity. I teach the transformational truth of A Course in Miracles, which we are all here to study, to learn, to embody the truth of. It is a truly transformational thought system when you can not only intellectually understand it, but you can live it. You can embody the truth of A Course in Miracles. So I continue to vacillate throughout the day. I find that when I can live what I have been studying for 34 years, I am so happy. And when I come into Pal Talk YouTube and I teach these concepts, it really helps me to grow. So thank you so much for being here with me. I am going to start my talk today with a paragraph from chapter 2. And this is my way of giving my time here to Christ consciousness. And this paragraph states, in A Course in Miracles, Jesus Christ writes, I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent Him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do because He who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever He wishes, knowing He goes there with me. I will be healed as I let Him teach me to heal. And what that paragraph tells us is that no matter where we go, God is with us. So it's always about surrendering our will with a small w to His will with a capital W. It's about us allowing Him to speak through us. And when we allow God to speak through us, we always know what to say. And we don't have to plan things out ahead of time. Actually, when we do plan things out ahead of time too much, we block God's voice because there is a feeling of release and letting go that allows us to be miracle workers. In order to extend our love, God's love to our brother, we need to let go and surrender to this higher vibratory frequency, which is based on unconditional love. And I'm trying to think here of an example of this point, and an example that is pretty good came to me yesterday in the car. It was kind of interesting. I was having a concern about a friend of mine who is going through challenges in her life right now. And I want to support her because I love her. So I'm discussing this situation with my husband. And my husband, who is a big planner, and he also, is very helpful, and he likes to he likes to help people. He likes to support people. I remember when I first met him, he would always speak about doing good deeds. Now, we have to be careful, I think, about helping people. I think every time we extend help to our brother, whenever we extend help to a friend or another person, we have to say to ourselves, is this coming from my ego or is this coming from God? Is this coming from my lower self, or is this coming from Christ consciousness? So, as me and my husband were discussing supporting my friend, my husband started coming up with the perfect dialogue. And he started saying, okay, well, you don't want to appear intrusive. You have to come across very lightly. So why don't you say this? And then if she says that, you can respond with this. And he started kind of mapping out in his mind exactly how the conversation should go to help this particular friend. And at first, I was listening to him, and then I started thinking, no, no, no. Because whenever I plan out conversations too precisely, what I'm doing is I'm blocking God's guidance. Because in order to be the miracle worker that we were born to be, there's nothing wrong with, I guess, doing a little planning, praying ahead of time, doing your best to give an important conversation over to the power of love. But if you plan things out too precisely, well, then you're not allowing God to work through you, because the only way we can really help our brother is by allowing God's voice to speak through us, and to really be a conduit, to really allow God's voice to speak through us. Too much planning will block the flow. You know what I just thought of? It's interesting. Lisa Natoli is one of my favorite Course in Miracles teachers. She is just so clear. And I remember a story that she told in one of her seminars. She said, way back when she was, I think, new to A Course in Miracles, or before she started A Course in Miracles, she would plan out everything she was going to say when she would go into party situations, because she was so nervous she wouldn't know what to say. So she would have all these little speeches planned, and then she spoke about how she at the time was coming from her ego when she did that. She's just such a beautiful Course in Miracles teacher, and she's so transparent. I can also remember times in my own life, when I would have problems with different boyfriends and they would break up with me, and I would do everything in my power to get them back. And I would plan out these little phone conversations, of what I was going to say when he picked up the phone. And if he said this, I was going to say this. And I realized that is all from the ego, because in order to tap into that higher vibratory frequency, we need to, again, focus on love, but refrain from planning things out too too meticulously, too succinctly, because the ego plans, the Holy Spirit accepts, the Holy Spirit allows everything to be exactly as it is. The Holy Spirit doesn't worry that he's not going to know what to say. He just allows those words to come to him. So I think that's what I do my best to do as often as possible. Just trust in that God will be with me no matter where I am, and I will always know what to say and what to do. And when we're really tapped into this Christ consciousness, when we're really tapped into the truth of who we are, it's just words really don't even matter. Words are inconsequential. God doesn't even hear our words. God just knows when we are coming from a place of love. Like, he can sense our vibrational frequency. And again, words in itself are meaningless. It's are we coming from love or are we coming from fear? So to go back to that conversation that I want to have at some point with this girlfriend who's going through some challenges, I think, all I need to do is love her and ask God for guidance when I'm talking to her. I don't have to plan out what I'm going to say. Yesterday, I had a MRI, and it's a very interesting, beautiful Course in Miracles story here. I have an MRI once a year for a diagnosis I received. I actually skipped last year's MRI, so this is my first MRI in 2 years. And when a person gets an MRI, I don't know how many of you out there have ever had an MRI, but what you do is you go into this cube, this tube, this piece of machinery that is tight around your body and your face. So if you have any kind of claustrophobia at all, it's very easy to panic. And that's what used to happen to me 8 years ago when I started going in for these MRIs. I used to panic. And they give you a little tube to squeeze, a little ball, I should say, to squeeze if you start to really stress out, and if you squeeze the ball, then they'll take you out of the MRI machine, but while you're in the MRI machine, actually what you need to do is you need to relax. You need to relax and be completely still. And that is the only way that the MRI scans are going to turn out. So, what I did at my last MRI session is for the first time, I started meditating. I said, okay, they didn't have any music to offer me 2 years ago at my MRI. So I decided I am going to recite the Course in Miracles lesson of the day. And I remember I started reciting to myself, I want the peace of God. I am the peace of God. I am God. And I started reciting this in my mind over and over. And by the end of the hour and a half MRI series, I was really in a blissful state of consciousness. It was a really beautiful experience 2 years ago. So yesterday I had an MRI scheduled, and again it was 90 minutes. They had a different machine this time, so this time they offered me music. I almost accepted. They said to me, do you want classic rock, country, do you want jazz, do you want top 40? I think those were my choices. I said, well, I would like some meditation music. They say, we don't have that. And they went through my choices again. And I almost chose classic rock because I do like classic rock. But then I said, okay, no music. I don't want any music. I'm going to meditate. So when they started the MRI, I did exactly what I did 2 years ago. And I started reciting my chant. I didn't do the lesson of the day because I think we're on lesson 172 was yesterday's lesson. But I went back into, I want the peace of God. I am the peace of God. I am God. And it was a beautiful experience, even better than 2 years ago. I was completely still. I kept chanting that phrase in my mind. I kept focusing on God, on love, on light, on Christ consciousness. And every time I would start to get a little anxious, I would focus on plugging myself into my God socket. That's my expression, you know. I try to keep myself plugged into my God socket as often as possible. And whenever I would start to get a little stressed, I would just focus on God. I would focus on love. I would visualize this power greater than myself, but that I'm a part of. And it worked. It worked. And it was a beautiful experience because it taught me that my mind is all powerful. It was a really good lesson. I said, I'm supposed to be here. I accepted the fact that I was supposed to be in that MRI machine, and the only time that was important was now. I just visualized my life exactly as I wanted it to be. And I realized that the only thing that's important to me is being connected to God consciousness. It is the only thing that's important to me. But we have so much power when we focus on love, when we focus on light, when we focus on when we focus on the truth of who we really are. So much power is available to us at each and every moment, and we need to realize that it's not our power, it's God's power, but we are a part of this all-powerful being. And what we need to do is we need to focus our mind on that as often as possible. And that is what A Course in Miracles is teaching us to do. And that is what I practiced yesterday at my MRI. It was an hour and a half of scans. And I had a few little issues that could have happened, during the MRI, but none of them happened. I was completely still. The scans came out perfect. And when I left the MRI room, I felt more connected to God. And that's what meditation does for us. Meditation helps us to stay connected to this all powerful force. So I meditated while I was in the MRI machine. I've been meditating in the mornings again. I went for a week or two when I wasn't so disciplined with my morning meditations. But we have so much love available to us at each and every moment when we can really discipline our mind to focus on what's real. I mean, A Course in Miracles tells us that we are much too tolerant of mind wandering. And I can feel it within myself when I'm trusting God, when I'm trusting the flow, when I'm loving myself. I feel that peace of God within myself. Like I was saying, I want the peace of God. I am the peace of God. I am God. When we can feel that serenity within ourselves, life just flows. So another example I have here of a Course in Miracles episode is something that happened with my husband. So Joe is I'm a 34-year-old. I've been studying A Course in Miracles for 34 years. My husband has been studying Course in Miracles for about 5, 6 years now. And he's doing wonderfully. He's so much happier now than he was before he started studying A Course in Miracles. And what happened with him is he went out on the boat. We have a boat that we keep docked at a local marina, and he went out on the boat with some friends on Sunday. I couldn't go with them because I was working. But what happened was the day was very nice, weather-wise, up until the very end when it started getting windy. There was a big storm that happened at the end of the day here in Massachusetts on Sunday. So when he was pulling the boat into the slip, he couldn't get the boat into the slip, which is where the boat is kept on the dock, because the wind kept pushing the boat away. So he just pulled the boat into somebody else's slip. So this is where somebody else's boat was supposed to have been kept, because he couldn't get it into his slip. And then he tied the boat and he went into his car to wait for the storm to subside so he could move the boat. And what happened is the owner of this particular slip saw what my husband did. And when my husband was in his car, the slip owner started knocking angrily on his window. And when my husband rolled down his window, the owner of the slip started swearing at my husband. Okay, he started swearing at my husband, "What's wrong with you?" And he used all different swear words, and he lost his temper completely. I guess the angry boat owner was with his son. And I think in the old days, before A Course in Miracles, my husband used to have a real anger streak. And I think he would have blown up and they probably would have gotten into this big fight, whether it would have been physical or verbal, I don't know. But I definitely know before A Course in Miracles, my husband Joe would have gotten into a fight. He did not. He kept his cool and he apologized. And he told me the story. He felt bad that he parked his boat in the wrong slip. But when he was verbally attacked by someone else, he kept his cool and he apologized. And I was so impressed with the fact that he did not lose his temper, because everything is either love or a call for love, you know? And this man was coming from a place of fear and he was attacking my husband verbally. But what he was really doing is he was calling for love. So when we can respond with love, that is the way we heal both ourself and the other person. You know, that's what I said to my husband when he told me the story. I said, well, that was a brilliant response to this man verbally attacking you, because everything in life is love or call for love. You might have put your boat in the wrong slip, but for this man to get hysterically angry at you is not right. So there is a paragraph in A Course in Miracles that speaks about that. I went into A Course in Miracles now.com and I put in the search bar love or a call for love. And it took me to chapter 14, Teaching for Truth. Jesus writes, the only judgment involved is the Holy Spirit's one division into two categories, one of love and the other the call for love. So everything that happens in life, you know, we either extend our love or project our fear. And when we project our fear, since fear is not real, what we're really doing is calling for love. It says here, you cannot safely make this division, for you are much too confused either to recognize love or to believe that everything else is nothing but a call for love. You are too bound to form and not to content. When you consider content is not content at all, It is merely form and nothing else. For you do not respond to what a brother really offers you, but only to the particular perception of his offering by which the ego judges it. So, with this man that was hysterically swearing at my husband, if my husband was coming from his ego, he would have felt the need to defend himself and attack back. But for whatever the reason, he didn't react out of fear. He just remained calm. And part of him saw this as a call for love. It's interesting too, because I was so proud of my husband's response, and I relayed this story to another friend of ours. And what this other friend said to me is, he said, well, that was great. Your husband did not get angry at this man. He says, well, your husband was the better person. Whenever somebody attacks you and you don't attack back, he said, then you just have to remember that you're the better person. And I listened to his feedback, and I realized that even though that feedback sounds good, whenever we think that we're the better person, that they got angry, but we maintained our cool, so we're the better person, we're again giving allegiance to the ego, because the ego loves to be superior. Well, he yelled at me, I didn't yell back, so I'm the better person. Again, we lose our connection to our God socket. We lose our connection to Christ consciousness. We lose our connection to God whenever we feel we're the better person. Whenever we forgive another person for a mistake they made, but we feel like we're doing it because we're better, again, we're giving allegiance to our ego. So it's really interesting what A Course in Miracles is teaching us. When we're coming from Christ consciousness, even if we're smart enough to respond with love, we definitely don't want to see ourselves as better than the other person. Because what we need to realize is that God has but one son, and we are all part of the sonship. So if this other person that is a part of me is calling out for my love, and I extend my love to him, and he accepts that love, and he heals whatever pain point is coming up for him, then he's happier and I'm happier. But I'm certainly not better than him. I'm just playing my part in this worldly classroom by extending God's love to a part of the sonship that is crying out for help. And that is a beautiful circumstance to be in, where we're able to help a part of the sonship by extending God's love to him when he is calling out for assistance. So on that note, it is now 1:30, and I need to end my talk here. But I thank you so much for being here with me today. We're always teaching what we need to learn, and I feel more connected to God now than I did a half an hour ago, which I always do. I love sharing about A Course in Miracles. And as A Course in Miracles says, nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. The only thing that's real is the love. I love you all, and I look forward to seeing you next week. I will return the microphone to Lynn. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Susan Michelle, and we will see you next Friday. And have a great week.